You are listening to Get Real Podcast.
So, Dan, what do you think about the new arrangement here in the fishbowl?
It's comfy cozy.
It is comfy cozy. We have to really thank my wife, Deb, for the assistance in the feng shui in this room.
No, it's definitely feng shui.
It is feng shui. And it's really awesome that we changed the setup in the fishbowl that we're in because we're doing our first band interview in here and we were able to fit everybody in.
Yeah, I'm glad it's not the Gypsy Kings or Dream Theater
Santana.
or Santana. Who else? Allman Brothers.
Oh,
they have like 5 guitar players or something.
Or how about Chicago? The whole entourage.
Yeah,
from
the
Chicago.
horn section is going to be out in the hallway. No, that's good stuff.
Just wouldn't be able to do it. Well, before we get into who's here, we're going to hop in the DeLorean, Dan, and go back to the 1980s.
Oh yeah,
when both you and I were super cool.
Oh yeah,
in high school.
Let's grow the mullets back out.
Oh, there we go. Did you have parachute pants?
I did. They were really expensive. I lived near Dallas when that was like all the rage, and breakdancing and Michael Jackson and Van Halen, like Panama and all that stuff. So it was like they were cool, but I could never get like the really, really expensive kind. We had too many kids. Parents wouldn't go for it.
I figured out why I have so many issues in my life.
Because you didn't get the parachute pants?
Exactly. I got the cheap knockoffs that looked like parachute pants.
They only had 3 zippers and not 40.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, that's cool.
Great decade, though.
Oh, yeah.
Wonderful decade. You've done a lot of look at the book Pendulum.
Yes.
Tell us about what the 80s were according to that book.
Yeah, it's real interesting. For our listeners, we've mentioned it before. Pendulum is a book. You can look it up. You can get it on Audible. We ought to have an affiliate link and make some cash.
We should. Cash would be great.
Check out and use promo code. Dan is awesome. And then, anyway, it's a book, and it was co-written, I believe it was a Jewish dude and a Christian guy. And it was very interesting. You know why I respect it? Because rarely do you find somebody that will grill their own hypothesis. Mm-hmm. Usually people have an idea and they're like, oh, their confirmation bias takes over. They're like, I'm right. It's my idea. And they own it emotionally, and it gets really distorted. Yeah. And the thing that I like about it is he wrote a book about how cyclical generations, okay, like every 40 years, there's a change. There's what they call a civic cycle or a we generation. And then 40 years later, it's almost like the left and right halves of the brain kind of have a bigger situation when it comes to society. Okay. And supposedly the hemispheres are backwards. So like China and the Far East, they're going to be, if we're in a we cycle or civic cycle, they're going to be in a me. Okay. Or an individual cycle. So just the basic understanding is that if you look at the literature, the movies, the entertainment, the sentiment of a generation, it will all line up in 1 or 2 psychological profiles. And there's one of them that lines up and says like, hey, this is all about you're okay, I'm okay, let's all express ourselves. Okay. And that was the heartbeat of the 1980s. Woohoo! Okay. Right now, it's different in the fact that there's a demand for conformity. It's like if you say something out of line or things that used to be fine, I'm not trying to be controversial, but if you said something like, well, boys are boys and girls are girls, now that's like they want to burn you at the stake.
You have violated the groupthink.
You have. So it's preposterous groupthink. I don't really like it, but we're kind of right now at the height of what you would call witch hunts. Yes. Okay, so that is the mark of our time. It's actually 1939, scary enough, if you look at the generation of where we're at. Okay, so it's 1939 again, which is weird. But going back to the 80s, I can't remember the exact number of when it transferred over. Let's see, what is 40 years from like 99 or 2001, like back?
Dude, you're asking me to do math right
1961.
Now?
Okay. 1961, I believe, is when it went from the last civic cycle or we cycle into the me.
And it's interesting you bring that up because one of the highlights at the beginning of that me cycle was something we talked about several editions ago in 1969, Woodstock.
Woodstock, absolutely. And that was a good 8 years in. Mm-hmm. So if you look at 1958, you started having the rustlings of the alpha voices in arts, entertainment, and music. You're thinking Chuck Berry, Sister Rosetta,
you have
all these people that had this mojo going on, the self-expression, and it was a couple of years. They were early. Okay, so the alpha voices show up early, and then all of a sudden it starts to become mainstream. Because if you look, my dad graduated in the early 60s. I think it was 61 or 62. If you look at his yearbook, they actually look like they were from the 50s. Okay, so most people weren't just like immediately, doing rock and roll hair and all that. It was still really clean cut. But you look at the difference between 1961 and 1969, it'll blow your mind, completely difference. Blow your mind. So the 80s were wild.
Man, did you have a Rubik's Cube?
I did have a
Rubik's Cube, Smurfs, Star Wars, Frosted Flakes, Tony the Tiger, Ronald McDonald commercials. Man, I'm going back.
There was so much about, like, in classic American over-the-topness about the 80s, but it was really cool. You know what I watched? And I think I mentioned this to you. I found a video. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning in Orlando, Florida in 1987. And it's two teenagers that had gone there for Disney, but they were just goofing around in like a Circle K or 7-Eleven, I think. And they were just goofing around meeting people and talking. And it's on YouTube. You can look it up for our listeners. If you are like really young, what is the generation now? Or like the
I lost track.
Okay. We're X or something
X.
back in the day.
Yeah, we're Generation X.
Yeah, and then what are they? I always say there's hope for them.
There's millennials, but now they're saying that we're into the next generation after millennials.
Which is that? Anybody know? What is the generation now? It's Z. Generation Z.
Zombies.
Okay. Yeah.
It's zombies!
No, Generation Z. If you're Generation Z, let's say you're 15, 16, 17 years old and you listen to our podcast, then go and look that up. Look up 7-Eleven, 1987, or convenience store, and they're playing with a video camera. And the banter back and forth, it was like we were actually extremely social. I don't know about me and you. We're nerds, but
I was a wallflower.
It's like, no, but the culture was so okay to be you.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was like this. And now it's like, I got to conform or somebody's going to smash me. I don't know, but I'll let you. I'm running on at the mouth.
No,
not that I ever
it.
do that. I never do that.
No, you never do that. And there's a reason why we do this. It's not because Dan and Glenn just want to talk about.
It's for the money.
No, it's because we want to talk about how cool we were back in the day.
Yeah, no, we were awesome.
Here I am. Get this. I'm putting on my reader glasses right now.
Yeah.
I am going to make reader glasses really cool.
Oh, you could be on MSNBC. You look smart.
Do I look smarter now? Philip, do I look smarter now that I have this on?
I do believe so.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The reason why we do this is these cyclical cycles.
Cyclical
cycles, yeah. Stacy, there's one for the book. Okay. These cycles that occur are spoken of in Scripture. Ecclesiastes.
Okay.
Solomon, really wise guy. And I'm talking wise and smarts, not that he was a comedian, okay?
He went around with a hand buzzer. Seymour Butts. How the heck are you?
What a wise guy.
Right.
He wrote in Ecclesiastes chapter 1, the thing that hath been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done, that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. Is there anything whereof it may be said, see, this is new, it hath been already of old time, which was before. So what Solomon is saying here is that there is absolutely nothing new. Human beings are cyclical, is what he's saying. It's funny because as I was researching this, the commentaries were like, well, Solomon is upset and sad about the mundaneness of human existence.
At the end.
At the end,
okay.
Exactly. But they're talking about this verse as well. And you would think that, okay, here we got this guy that's brimming with God's wisdom. He's not just upset that it's mundane, but what he's doing, he's pointing out to us the way we are as humans and as we are as society. And here's where it gets interesting. This is why Dan and I like to hop in the time capsule. There is no remembrance of former things.
Yeah.
Okay? Neither shall there be any remembrance of this that are to come with those that shall come after. So people forget.
Yeah.
We forget.
Well, generationally, the kids that come up are like, I'm going to wear bell bottoms. That's new.
Yeah, like, exactly.
No, it's not. No, I'm going to get a tattoo. I'm going to, it's nothing new.
No,
it's
nothing new at all. So basically what Solomon is saying is that everything runs in cycles, and we can go deeper on this in further podcasts, but basically history is forgotten and will continue to be forgotten, and that's why we keep doing the same stupid things that we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we keep forgetting things.
That's a wrap. Thank you for joining us.
But we've got with us today a band that was highly influenced. They're our generation. highly influenced by the 80s. They are called Winter's Resurrection. And what I find very humorous in a way is that you and I have talked to people in the UK. We've talked to people in Italy. We've talked to people in Poland. And the guys from this band live about 5 miles down the street from the studio. So we did not have to reach out and touch someone via Skype today. We had them all come here. And in the room with us today, we have Robert, Philip, and Mike.
Hello, Robert, Philip, and Mike.
Hello. Hey, guys.
It's great to have you guys here. Before we go any further with this, they have a song that I want to play for us to listen to and for our listeners to listen to that touches upon everything that we've been talking about to a degree and everything that we're going to talk about. It's called Crossfire. It's a really, for those that dig 80s sounding music, this is good stuff. And when we come back, we're going to talk to him about this song, talk to him about the band. We're going to reminisce a little bit about the days we were cool.
You know what you're doing. You're spinning the hits.
I am spinning the hits.
Glenn wanted to be a DJ so bad. He's like, we have a long distance dedication. We're going to be right back. You know, that's funny.
And here it comes. This is Crossfire by Winter's Resurrection.
Here we stand at the end of the rainbow. Ready or not, there is the final decision.
All right, Dan.
Wow.
That was good, wasn't
You
it?
guys, that's good.
Isn't that good?
That's really good. It makes me want to listen further. I wanted to read the lyrics. It draws me in. It's a good, unique sound, you know? It reminds me, I hear different things of it, and I like components, because y'all have your own sound, but when I hear it, I'm like, whoa, it's kind of like Yes got stuck on a tour bus with the Scorpions for 9 months, you know, and then they kind of just, you know, were like, oh, okay, I've been influenced or something. But it's beautiful. It rocks, but it's also really symphonic at the same time. And then somebody was just like shredding. Who's the guitar? Who's
shredding?
Okay, just
All right.
vocals, everything. I like that. And y'all wrote that as well. That's one that y'all wrote.
Yes,
that's amazing. No, that's great. I haven't heard y'all yet. I'm like working all through the week. That is incredible, dude.
Phil, I had no idea you could sing like that. I've known you for what, several years now?
Yeah, I met you probably about 6-7 years ago.
Yeah, I had absolutely no idea. And Dan, this is just like 10 miles down the street.
No, that's amazing.
It's amazing.
I got to check y'all out when you play. Do y'all gig?
No, we haven't. We don't have a band.
We don't have a drummer or bass player at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, we're just recording right now.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about Crossfire. How did that come about? What's that song about?
I wanted the lyrics in front of me. It was meaty. I was like...
I was picking up on it just a little bit. I hear references to Big Brother, Thought Control Police. I hear references to 1984, The Decision. I hear a little... Explain it. Tell us a little bit about this song, how it came about, what it's about.
The song was actually written, I guess, back in the 80s.
The music itself, yeah.
And then we, Mike and I were working together in a group, and we had a female vocalist, and she actually wrote a different song to it. And we thought about repurposing the song, and Mike had posted something else we'd written, and a guy named Shane, who was in Great Britain at the time, was one of the people that wrote words to the other song. And then he heard this, and he said, hey, I'd like to take a shot at it. So he did it, and he took it a very different direction than what we had originally written. And, you know, his lyrics were, we just thought were intelligent. And he's very creative. You know, we write stuff very standard: verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, lead. And he took the song and really changed it. So he didn't actually write to the verses, so we had to come back after the fact and then take what he had written in the pre-choruses and try to make lyrics in the verse that would make sense. So it was an interesting combination of having the music, Shane coming up with whole new lyrics, whole new vocals, and then us having to finish the verses.
So this song was written in the 1980s.
Yes.
The lyrics.
The music itself.
The music, not the lyrics.
Okay, the music was. Interesting. We're looking at 40 years that this was written. There we go with that 40-year cycle. That's really cool. So explain to us a little bit about what you're trying to express through this piece of music, because to me it sounds, in a way, very relevant, very prophetic in a way. The lyrics are very intelligently written. It makes you think, what is the message that you guys are trying to get across with this?
Well, I think Mike would say Mike knows Shane better because they've been conversing back and forth with emails and having worked with the other thing. But I know from everything I've heard is Shane's faith is very important to him. And when he wrote this, it was the Crossfire, the struggles with government, Big Brother, and then his faith part of it. So I think that's where Shane was going with it.
Yeah, I mean, he's Latter-day Saints kind of guy. He's done a lot of missionary work and stuff like that. And his lyrics are very kind of apocalyptic, revelations, a lot of things that he does. And so I think with Crossfire, what he was envisioning and coming from was, the fact that things kind of get more and more towards the government overreach over our lives, the control. And despite all of that, the daily decision that we have, are we going to be, we're in the world, but are we going to be of the world? Or, we're going to fix our eyes upon God and focus on that. And that's kind of how it plays. The first half of the song is kind of, here's all the things we're facing, Big Brother, war is peace, those kinds of nonsense,
yes.
the psychobabble of, war is peace, that kind of a thing. And the second half of the song kind of goes to the fact on a more personal level of, this is the thing that we have to face every day. Which way are we going to go with this? We're caught in a crossfire. All these things, the world, technology, how it's being used, all these things are coming at us from every angle.
Yeah.
We're caught in the crossfire. And then the ultimate peace that we can derive from that is, God's on our side.
Wow.
It doesn't matter what we're going to have to face. In the end, He's on our side, so we don't have to fear any of that.
But it's so pertinent.
It is. Yesterday I was listening to it, and because of the way that the lyrics were written made me think, and that's the kind of music that I like, is music that's going to make me think. Now, mind you, I was going back to Dokken days and everything like that, and a little bit of it was like, oh, this is good. I was feeling really nostalgic when I was listening to it, and that's kind of the draw to it for me. But my ears perked up when I heard 1984. I was like, wow, the Orwellian society where the government basically controls everything. So I started doing some research on 1984 and the significance of that, because as we were talking about before we even started today, there is no such thing as coincidence. And I think Solomon even points to that in Scripture a little bit, that everything has a season, a time, and a purpose. Everything does. And when we slow down and when we consider it, we can see those things. Unfortunately, what we do in our lives a lot of times is we just kind of go through life and don't think much. Passivity, in a lot of ways. So I started doing some research on 1984, and I started to look into the reasons why George Orwell wrote his book and named it 1984. A couple different theories on that, but one of the ones that I found most interesting is that he completed writing the book in 1948. So the book was looking out 40 years ahead, Pendulum. Now, the question is, was he just a great observer of human society? Was he someone that God was moving on prophetically? Or was it a combination of both? I don't know. There's several other reasons why they say that he named it 1984. But 1984 was a very significant year, and there's a couple things I want to talk about too that we kind of dovetail on. 1984 was the Jewish year of 5744. Now,
enlighten me.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, okay. I could play along. Yeah, that is fascinating.
Got it.
Whatever that means.
So,
explain your nerdery.
Okay, here's the nerdery on it, and we're going to do a little bit more thinking on this. 5744, as you know, that every Hebrew number is represented by the letters of the Hebrew alphabet. So the year 1984 was the letters Tav, Shin, Mem, and Daled. Tav Shemad, which means destruction. So according to the Hebrew calendar, 5744 was supposed to be the year of destruction. There was a lot of concern. I was going back and reading old newspaper articles written in 1983 in the Washington Post, concerned about the year 1984 being the year of destruction and relating it to George Orwell's book 1984. There was a lot of panic over that. Now, you and I were probably sheltered a little bit from that from our parents. We were just kind of like, hey man, 1984, Van Halen's got a new album coming out, with an angel smoking a pack of cigarettes on it, doing that. But 1984, what happened in 1984? So I decided to go back and take a look at that a little bit more. AIDS was identified in 1984. There were advances in DNA science made useful for criminal forensics, and the Macintosh computer came out in 1984. And it's interesting, I don't know if you remember the Super Bowl commercial for the Macintosh computer in 1984, where was the big brother, George Orwell.
He smashes
they smash the screen.
Yeah.
Exactly, and using Macintosh will be so un-1984. Well, the world didn't blow up, and one of the things that you have to do when you consider biblical prophecies, you have to take a look at the context of everything. All right? The temple hadn't been rebuilt yet, or there was no consideration of that yet in Jerusalem, and that's one of the things that needs to happen. But when we take a look at 1984, some things that I would say, kind of helped accelerate us more towards that end occurred. Of course, AIDS, the AIDS virus. But then you also have the advances in DNA and the advances in technology. And from what I've been seeing, a lot of the advances in DNA and technology are what are going to lead to the unveiling of the mark of the beast and the beast itself and the Antichrist. There's a lot of research that I've been doing on that. So you have the Macintosh computer and that coming out. So not necessarily was that the year of destruction, wow, the world's going to blow up. That is the year that I think a lot of things kind of got accelerated. And because God is gracious and merciful, every once in a while, he'll put the foot on the gas, move it forward a little bit more, but because he wants to see people saved and brought to him.
I think that if you looked at it through different lenses, for example, if you think about individualism leading to community, leading to a sense of nationalism, and you would actually look back at 1984 and see possibly the birthings of things that would undermine individualism, undermine nationalism, because right now we're at a very scary place where things have, nationalism is like a bad word. Just people, it's all about the global good and it's all about conformity. And we live, even though now it's not so much the government, well, the government has been surveilling on us, for a long time. And now it's like, it was kind of a conspiracy theory like last year that if you said, I really need to check my insurance rates, in front of your phone. Now you get like all these banner ads. Boom. Oh, the guy's shopping insurance.
Yeah.
It's listening to me. And then I'm dumb enough. I have 2 Alexas listening to every word that I say, trying to sell me peanut butter. It's listening to me. And then Amazon's like, this guy wants peanut butter, right? And so we live in the foundations are there. And it's just a little bit more tyranny with the government. And it's like, when I heard that song, I could pick up what it was about. And you had discussed a little bit about the meaning, but I hadn't heard the song yet. It really, that whole flow is there. We live in a scary time. It's weird.
It's a very
But
scary
it's like
time.
they give it to you. They bait you in. Oh, all you got to do is yell at Alexa and she'll play your favorite song. I'm like, Alexa, come on. Do you yell at Alexa?
I don't have Alexa.
Okay,
no.
yeah,
Alexa has been banned from this house.
I yell at her. Even though she's really convenient, I'm pretty rude with her and Siri. I really have to repent of that. Even though they're digital apparitions, I don't want to be a jerk, because when the robots rise up to kill everybody, because that's going to happen, according to every metal song I've ever heard.
Everyone is the robot's going to take over.
When they do that, I want them to go, no, that guy's legit. Spare that one, But anyhow, yeah, we got use for him. He can be a benign human relations. All from, and what do robots need? We need to change a.
They need oil changes,
Yeah,
I guess. They need a regular
like the
oil
Tin
change.
Man,
So, one of the things that I appreciate about the project that you have, Winter's Resurrection, is that you have songs of faith that make you think. It doesn't beat you over the head. It's not Jesus, Jesus, Jesus all the time, which gets really legalistic after a while. You also have secular songs that you do as well. You guys sent me one, Black Widow, that I listened to it, and I thought about it. It made me think, again, one of your songs that made me think. And it took me back to when I was in high school as a teenager, struggling with human relations, of getting dumped, of not having a girlfriend, of having a broken heart. And there's profitability to songs like that and things like that, because it helps you process what's really going on in life.
Is there really such a thing as a secular song?
Guys, would you say there's such a thing as a secular song?
I could argue that. I know what you mean. I know what other people mean when they say it, but I think about if you handed me a bag of gravel, right? It's not secular. It's really not.
No.
It is part of God's thing. It's part of the Logos. It's a bag of gravel. But if I'm talking about it, I'm not going Jesus first every second about, look at the gravel. But it is, I don't know. I'm weird.
Thoughts?
Part of life.
Yeah.
It's all life's experiences.
Yeah, it's like a story,
Tell us about your influences. You have a lot of influences in your music.
So, being of my age, I think my influences started with the tail end of the Beatles. And then obviously you had like Mountain with Mississippi Queen. Came up through the 70s, so there was Styx. Journey, Pat Travers, and then along came Kiss and bands like that. So it's pretty much a walk of just about everybody that you heard on the radio during that period. I think the biggest thing that stuck with me was kind of the 80s style of rock and roll. The 70s, you know, with Styx, Kansas Journey, bands like that. But then some of the 80s bands, and I've actually listened to a lot of stuff since then. I think one of the newer, and I put it in quotations, newer bands would be like Dream Theater, which is a lot more progressive and about musicianship and just going in a million different directions all in one song kind of a thing. So there's a lot of ground to cover there.
Philip?
Do you remember those old intercoms that used to be in the houses built in the 70s?
Yes, we had those.
So we'd all sit around the table, our family and us, we would eat, and I'd be always like the last one to finish eating because I'm singing all the songs trying to shovel this food down my throat. But I just, something that God put in me, I love to sing, and my first concert was actually down at the Garrett Auditorium down there in Charleston. I got to see UFO, which was an awesome show, and I got to see Cheap Trick.
Oh.
And they were like one of my favorite bands since then, and that really, you know, my first live album was Cheap Trick live at Budokan. I was hooked after that. You know, I wanted to be the singer. I wanted to be the bass player, the guitar player, Rick Nielsen. But I was influenced by people like that. Styx, Journey. I think, you know, Steve Perry. What can you say about that man? It's incredible. The Beatles, their songwriting, phenomenal. I don't know if anybody can ever top them. Elton John, the Rolling Stones. And when MTV came out, it kind of was, it even gave you more of an interest. It's almost like you could see the guys performing. You didn't have to go to a concert. You know, you could just see them, their videos, or even their live concerts that they showed. And it had a tremendous effect on me. I started taking guitar lessons when I was in high school. I took for a year. I learned how to play piano. I took piano when I was 8, from about 8 years old till 11. I played 3 years. I wasn't crazy about it. I always played with a timer so I wouldn't have to practice for an hour every day. When my mom turned her back, I would like put it down and like, go, oh, you've already been practicing 30 minutes? Yeah, Mom. We're getting really tired here. So, I played the trumpet for a couple of years in the middle school band. But yeah, music's always been kind of a part of my life, and this, like I said, is something that God put inside of me. So, and these guys are helping me to bring it out. I'm kind of living one of my, I wouldn't say a fantasy or anything, but one of my dreams is just being able to record an album, you know, a really good album, and if it does well, that's the icing on the cake, you know. So I do believe that being here today was a divine appointment. Being here with you guys and reuniting with you and Robert. I believe that everything does happen for a reason. So
The drummer.
And I'm the elder statesman here. Definitely, I think the Beatles' greatest band of all time, no doubt. Didn't particularly want to play their music. Love listening to it still to this day. A little older, definitely the 70s supergroups. Mm-hmm. It was Journey, Styx, Boston, Foreigner. So that was my big influence. But then when MTV came out with the 80s hair bands, like, that's wild. I want to dress crazy and play stuff a little heavier. So
Parachute bands.
It started with the 70s groups, but then that whole 80s hair band stuff, I liked a lot of that too.
I remember seeing Bon Jovi on American Bandstand, and I called my mom into the living room when the TV was on. I said, Mom, I want my hair just like that. You know what her answer was? No.
That's funny.
That didn't. MTV. Go ahead, Dan. No.
When did MTV? They came out in what, 82?
I think it was
82?
1980.
Oh, 80. Okay.
1980.
I remember I was at a football camp, and as a youngster at a college, and we were staying there. So it's like all of us they had one TV, so all of the guys at the football camp were glued to that, and just watching MTV every spare second that we had. But y'all, question about the Beatles, because as I've gotten older, I appreciate them more. I always like kind of the early stuff. And then lately, and I don't know why, I guess when I was young, I didn't follow into more of their psychedelic stuff as much, but now I like it a lot more. Which do y'all have a part of the Beatles? Like, you like really early Beatles? You like all of it? What really do you get into when it comes to the Beatles? What part of their catalog?
All of it.
Yeah.
The entire history, the growth, the changes that they went through. Like you said, in the beginning, they were kind of coming in on the tail end of that 50s rock and roll kind of a thing, and their first couple of songs, at least, were kind of in that vein. A little bit of a progression, but it was kind of in that vein. But then as they went along and they started experimenting and getting into, as you said, like the psychedelics.
Well, even when they did the psychedelic stuff, you listen to it, and it can kind of sound like it's, they're tripping and it's oozing out, but it's actually incredible songwriting. So it's like, how somebody could get up and just kind of go someplace, but it would usually be kind of elementary. They'll have just this just right sort of. My daughters love the Beatles and love the trippy stuff. Love, what is it, Strawberry Fields and some of these other ones. And I was listening to it and I was like, that's really amazing. The flow, it's so thought out, it's so practiced, but yet it seems like it's just kind of like, hey, it's coming out,
Yeah,
kind of
different, very different than their early stuff. It's
and
almost
Styx. I remember the first time I ever heard Styx. I was in my cousin's. He had an 8-track, and he's in this bright. You remember how bright yellow those Volkswagen Rabbits were? It's like a 4-speed Volkswagen Rabbit. And I got in the passenger seat, and they were quite a bit older than I was. This is 1977, probably 76 or 77. And we're in my driveway, and then he puts in, and it was Renegade. Oh, mama, I can, and he started doing that. I was like, and then the scream happened. I was like, oh, yeah, man. But yeah. Did y'all feel like Styx kind of died when they came out with, what was the chick song they came out with? Was it Babe?
Babe.
So they went from being like this gritty rock band, and I got that. I was like, yeah, but they went all Air Supply on me, kind of. Right there when I was like, man, Styx rocks. And then they're like, it's you, babe. And I was like, well, that's kind of catchy, but I want to hear him scream. But anyway.
I actually had a K-Tel record. Remember K-Tel records?
Yep.
Greatest hits on one album.
That's right. Yep, exactly.
What was it called?
Greatest hits on one album. That's where they take all the good stuff and put it on one record.
Okay.
And sell it cheap. Okay. But I had a K-Tel record, and Come Sail Away by Styx was on there. And that was when I was 5 or 6 years old. My mom was buying that stuff for me. Queen was on there as well with We Are the Champions. I love those songs.
Great Scott, Glenn. We'll be right back, but we have to summon up 1.21 gigawatts.
To the DeLorean, Dan!